Hey everybody, welcome back to the War Room. I hope you can forgive my setup. I got you on a little bit of a rig here, so hopefully it looks okay. I am doing a review of Ostkrieg, the World War II Eastern Front, game designed by Mitchell Ledford and Gregory M. Smith. Now, excuse me, if you are a very, very serious grognard, this game may not be for you. It's a very, very uncomplicated game. It's like under 2.0 on the complexity scale for BoardGameGeek.com. Excuse me. And it is a CDG, so that kind of turns off a lot of grognards right away because it is card-driven. However, it has a lot of merit. It has a lot of strategy. I think it's a good game. I think that it's a game that it's a great beginner's game, okay? It's a great opener for people who've never played war games before. And if you're like me, I have a difficulty trying to find people who play war games in real life. But games like this, I can get my kid to play, my wife to play, no problem. The card game is not complex. It's not difficult. The combat system is a bucket of dice game. Think it's like Axis and Allies, basically. The air fighting system is very simple. It's 1 for 1, basically. You could have air superiority if you're the only one that has air units. If you have more armor, you get more dice to throw. If you get more hits than the other guy, you take over the region, then that region becomes yours. You have red areas here. These are your victory point areas. If you take those, you'll get more build points later on to get more cards. Yeah, there's build points in here, so I have to figure out the Russians for 42. But these points allow you to buy back the cards you used that you discarded in the first year. Each year has its own deck of cards. So you start with 1941 cards, you use those, then you'll get the 1942 cards added to whatever cards you have left over, and then you could buy back some of the old cards that you've already discarded. So you might have a bunch of stuff from 1941 and 1942, you know, say you're in 1944, you can buy a whole bunch of cards back. But in order to get those build points, you have to take over regions. All right, so the card play is simple. You just simply play it. It's all events. There's no ops value to it. You play the event and then you do whatever it says on the card. The card might say, hey, attack regions, move to different regions, redeploy, resupply, things like that. There are supply points, like you see them in the little supply symbol over here. You got a couple like Moscow over here. Berlin is the only one for the Germans all the way to the west. And as long as your group of dudes can trace supply freely back, you're good. There's a couple of special rules. For example, Helsinki cannot fight until 1942. So I could take this off. There's like my little warning shit. Don't use it. All right. Other than that, that is about it. The combat system is a little weird at first. So the way it works is you have to figure out a few things. So for example, if I got a bunch of Germans going to fight into a region with, let's say, some Russians, the first thing I figure out is, do I have air superiority? If I'm the only one with airplanes either in or adjacent to the area I'm attacking, I'll get a dice to throw. If I have more armor than the other guy, I'll get another dice to throw. Then the next thing I have to figure out is in 1941, I get a die for every 2 ground units that's armor and infantry that are in the area round up. So if I have 3 ground units, let's say armor and 2 infantry, I will get 2 more dice. And that's basically how you determine it. And then the Russians will do the same thing. And then they'll play. You'll throw your dice. The Russians are really bad off in the beginning of the game. They are going to lose a lot of ground at the start. They get a die for 1 for every 6 ground units. Okay? They don't add in... there's some special things for the Finnish and for the Norwegian, I believe. I'm not sure. for the Germans, but basically all the Russians are the same. There are some partisan groups. Some of your infantry can be flipped over. If they decide not to move at all, they can entrench, and that'll take away a die from your enemy when he throws it if he tries to take over those regions. Okay. Air combat, like I said, it's a 1-for-1 basis. So if I'm the Germans and I have the only guy who has air in the area and the Russians don't, I get air superiority. So I don't have to worry about fighting any airplanes. I just get the extra die for the superiority. However, if I have 3 airplanes and he has 2, then we just eliminate 2 for 2. So I'll have 1 left over, and then he'll have none. And then I'll get the air superiority and then get the extra die. But I lose those planes along the way. So really simple system there. Armor simple. I got nothing else to really state. The rule book is easy to read, but there's a lot of unclarified things. For example, it doesn't clarify the build points very well. All right, it doesn't tell me, like for example, it doesn't explain. You got oil fields, like Baku's an oil field. My cop, actually Baku's like a level 3 oil field. You got a few of them you got one in Germany in Ploesti. They give a small example about how these oil fields will affect your cards and how many points you get. It also doesn't explain the build points very well. I didn't know until the end of this turn that these points go away and then you get new points at the next turn. Well, it doesn't say that though. It doesn't say you get new points. I'm assuming it does because it says you can keep purchasing at the end of every year. So there are some missing concepts to this game as far as the rules go. I don't think it's hard to either homebrew the rules or figure it out. And of course, if you go on, Board Game Geek, people will give you ideas of how they play. It is also a solo game. I'm playing this with, I'm playing it two-handed right now, but it's a solo game. I can't wait to try the solo segment out. The solo is not that difficult to follow. It's got its own play card, and I find it to be very, very interesting of a game. In fact, I'm enjoying it. I think this will be a great game to get new players into wargaming, because that's my difficulty. Just getting people in real life to play. I've got tons of war games. I'm a big war gamer at heart, but getting people to play war games is a very difficult task. People just don't get into this historical hobby very often, and I think that's a plight for most people who are into war games. Online's okay, but I'd rather play in real life. I like having everything plotted and planned out and played in front of me. So this game is very nice. It's very simple, and it was like $30. I got it for $35 on eBay. So it's out there. I think it's from 2019 or 2017. I can't remember. Ostkrieg. I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Have a good rest of your day.